All right, so I'm going to open up that image from 2560 files, from there it is. And all we're looking at here is having some sort of layout that we could then use, okay? So I'm going to give you the raw image because this is basically like something you would get. Don't forget the bottom piece of cardboard here. And the first thing I need to do is straighten it out. You can see that it's not perfectly straight. As good of a camera person as I am, obviously it's not perfect. So I will use my Control T after I've selected that. Just kind of line that up, and then kind of line this up. I also pull a vertical grid, or a vertical guide, so I can line it up that way. And I'm using the Control key as I drag the corners. For those of you who've forgotten everything from Photoshop class. There we go. All right, so that's pretty well lined up, good enough at least for what we're doing. Then I'm going to crop this to exactly-ish what I need. Image crop. And then we could approach this, two different ways. One way is we go through and we figure out how big each piece is. So let's say I grab this piece here, and I just copy it, and then I hit Control C, there we go. Make a new document, paste it in there, and then if I go to my image size, I'll see the proportions. So I'm not concerned about dots per inch, I'm not concerned about inches or anything, I'm just concerned with physical proportions. So right now this is 1212 pixels by 359 pixels. So if I'm making an animation for that bottom piece, that's my comp size. Okay, it's not 960 by 540, it's not 1280 by 720, it would be 1212 by 359, or some increment of that. Meaning that let's pretend that I took it on a really crappy camera and it came up at like 200 pixels and that's like too grainy and I want to really project it good. I would change this to pixels and I would resize this to, let's say, 2048. You can leave it at 1212, that's fine, but you wanted to have it, obviously, your canvas big enough that you could work with. So that's one way to do that, is to break each piece into a separate piece that you could then drop in here like this. Drop into After Effects as far as how big each piece is. So I could even put this like 1212 by, what was it, 349? 359. 359. Wait there 1 sec. Then shrink this down. Okay, so that's how I could kind of line that up, and I would do that for each one of the pieces here. So, wrong button. There we go. Make a smaller brush. So this piece that's right here is a piece. There's a back wall piece right here. There's this right there. Depending on the angle that we hit this at, we could get some areas better than others. So if you see there's a top of this, if I'm projecting it from the bottom, I can get the top. If I'm projecting it from above, I can get the bottom. I cannot get both the top and the bottom from where I'm at, okay? It just doesn't work with our setup, okay? So you can cut this apart inside of Photoshop and use that as what dimensions you're going to use, or what you can do is take this entire image once it's cropped, make sure it's plenty big enough, which it should be 1651 by 1631, and that would be my resolution when I go into After Effects. I just have to know that when I do an animation inside of After Effects, that my animation is going to be limited to the areas that I'm focusing on. So when I do an animation, it'll be on this piece here. It won't be on the entire thing. It'll be like on that piece. Or it'll be on this outside piece here. Like that all the way down here and all the way down there. Like I can actually consider that as one piece if I wanted to, okay? So it depends on how you want to break it up. I want you to animate at least 3 pieces of this thing. So the easy one is the bottom one because it's pretty flat. The more interesting ones are this outer one and then some of the inner ones here, okay? So I'm going to leave that picture up on the server. I'll leave that box like up here so you can see it. And then go to it. Look up different ways you can animate motion graphics type things, shapes moving around, things moving around this thing. You'll find a bunch of cool examples online. Cool? Questions? Mm-hmm. Correct. Nope, you will have one animation for each area. Yep, that's how you're going to turn it in, because I need a movie for each so that I could isolate that area and load that movie, isolate that area, load that movie. We can have stuff being subtracted, so let's say that you did this outside box as one animation. When we put that on the actual projection, I draw that outside box, cut out the inside, and the animation will just play on the outside, okay? So that anything that happens on the inside isn't actually there. You can do that too. Just make sure that they're, as far as time-wise, they're all linked up because it syncs up all the times. So when you say 1 second in this one, it should be 1 second in the other one, okay? So if basically something's supposed to move from here down into this area and then down into that area, just make sure that on each one of those pieces that it makes sense as to how that's happening, okay? You don't have to use 3D layers, but you definitely could use 3D layers for this. One video I would recommend kind of watching is box projection mapping. This is box projection mapping stuff. Here's like some cool things that people have done with them. Like they outline the box, they have these like lines going across them and whatever. It's really awesome. Okay, so look up box projection mapping. You'll see a load of examples of different things you can do with it. The idea with something like this is that we're not just projecting one image because that's pretty boring. We want to have something that kind of like works around it and kind of shows off the form. Okay. Also, if you have another shape, let's say, for instance, you're like, yeah, that's cool, but I want to build my own shape. Cool. Build your own shape, take a picture of it, get the dimensions, and just make sure it's available so when we project them, we can actually see it. Okay? Anything else? This will be like a 1-week project. That's all we're going to spend on this. Okay? So by the 16th, we should be good. Okay? It depends on how long you want them. I would probably say about 3 to 5 seconds for each one. If you had something that's a bit more complicated, sure. Last semester we did these in 3D, and Austin did one that was, what, 2 minutes? Yep. Yeah. It was a Tetris game. So it was great, but to watch the entire thing, right, we fast forwarded. Yeah, okay? Yeah. Cool?